I'm guest hosting tonight, so because two of our board members are here, and then Sue, they're going to go to the board meeting in a little bit. So, establishing meeting agreements, focus on issues, not individuals. Respect everyone's voice, let them speak, be concise and stay on topic. And so tonight we've got new member of ACT, Steve Wilkinson, has decided to join. And I'm going to put Holly on the spot. She's thinking about it. Yeah. Holly DeLapp, she lives over on David's Circle. She's thinking about joining ACT. And ACT is this is a fourth meeting for ACT. And it's going to take some people to go somewhere. People are going to have to, and I think it's starting to go somewhere. People are getting concerned. And I was talking with Steve too, maybe Tuesday nights might not be the best night anymore, especially during summer. If I decide to meet during summer, talking to a lot of my neighbors, they have ball on Tuesday nights for their kids. So, but anyway, and tonight is going to be about basically public safety. The fire, EMS, police. We've got, starting out tonight will be Steve Wilkinson. He's a longtime EMT. And then we'll go to Tyler Tisdale, who's EMT director. And we'll go to Todd Pinkham, who's the fire chief. Courtney Norton, who is on the public safety committee. And we have Chief Nicholas Stroik and Officer Stephanie Benish here tonight to speak. So very much appreciate everybody taking their time to come here. Everybody taking their time to speak. So with that, I'm just going to start it off and go ahead, Steve.
Well, actually, if you don't mind, Paul, I'd like to have Tyler and Todd go before me.
Okay.
And then I can kind of fill in. So, Tyler, if you want to start, go ahead. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm Tyler with the Renee EMS. Right now, we do have some staffing struggles. A lot of night crews are 2 people. Dustin's in the back there. He's on a lot at night. Todd is on. He just got his EMR license. And Vicky Bakken, who is very important to our service. She's on almost 7 days a week, 24 hours. Besides, usually 1 day a week she leaves for a bit. I've tried numerous Facebook posts and stuff to get people. Nobody seems to want to join. Right now, the state has helped out. EMR classes, you no longer have to take the national registry. So all you gotta do is take a class. At Arena EMS, I would like you to take the national registry once, and then just to see where you're at to gauge. We can work on your skills, but you can also come and run then. We have 3 full-time staff running throughout the day. And then they also run sometimes at night and on the weekends to figure out gaps in the schedule, if there's anything.
Well, why don't you talk about the training requirements, how many hours it takes, and the commitment that people have to make.
Okay. The commitment, if you want us to pay for, or the fire board to pay for your class, the EMR class is 84 hours, and that usually runs about half a semester, and it's 2 4-hour nights a week. EMT is 220, but now most places have separated them into EMR is one class, and then you continue on for EMT to finish. So it's 2 different things. So you get your STEP, get your license. EMR, the difference is you need an EMR and an EMT to make a legal crew in the state of Wisconsin. So basically, like, your EMR is going to be your driver. If there's only 2 people, you're always going to need an EMT no matter what. So 2 EMRs can make a legal crew. The requirements for us to run is once you pass all your testing, get licensed, you're required to run 6 shifts a month for the first 2 years, 2 shifts being a weekend. They're 12-hour shifts. They're at your convenience. I mean, there's way more than enough shifts throughout the month to cover up. And then your weekend shifts at 2. It doesn't have to be back-to-back. It can be throughout the month. They run Friday night from 6 p.m. until Sunday morning at 6 a.m. So that's kind of what we're looking at, and if you want to help what the prerequisite is to get in.
So why don't you mention some of the restrictions like age and that sort of thing?
I mean, you have to be at least 18 to take the class. It's probably not the best for retirement age people to take it because it is a strain on your body. There's a lot of lifting of over 50 pounds, especially if there's only 2 people on at night. It's a lot of mental work to take in. You're going to see some stuff. I mean, on some calls, but 90% of the calls are just holding somebody's hand and making them feel better to get to the hospital. It's mentally, I mean, the class is very rigorous. I'd say the EMR is, going to be easier to step down, but the EMT is a way more rigorous class. It takes 10 practicals. You have to go and do 10 clinicals somewhere, either with us on the ambulance or somewhere else, like in a hospital setting. And there's also the National Registry test, which they are redoing to make a little bit easier, but we'll see when it all comes out. They're still in the works for that.
Okay. All right. Todd, you got stuff for us?
Hey, I'm Todd Pinkham. I'm the Arena Fire Chief here. Much like what Tyler said, we're facing some staffing issues. A lot of our members have aged out, and we don't have the next generation coming up to fill their shoes. We don't have the luxury of having full-time fire, so daytime we really struggle. I'm fortunate, my son and I, who's on where we work, we're able to leave during daytime, but daytimes there may only be 2 or 3 of us coming, and then we're going to have to call mutual aid for help. Right now, we have the majority of our members are from the township. We don't have a lot of help coming from the village. Nick and Stephanie, they're both on, but with their law enforcement stuff, they're plenty busy with that. And that leaves Dustin, our lone village firefighter, and he is on call for EMS most of the time. So he's unable to respond for fire also. So everybody else is coming from way out in the township. And it'd sure be great if we could get some more younger folk, from the community to get trucks coming out a lot sooner and, I drive 7 miles into the station to get a truck, and if it's out in the township, even could be another 7-8 miles out. Really all we require for fire end of things is you take the entry-level firefighter class, and I think now that runs, it's about 5 months, I believe, and it's 1 night a week. There is a slight physical aspect of it. You are going to be lifting heavy things, but the instructors in that and us as a department, they're able, we've had people that are definitely afraid of climbing ladders, able to get through it with the help of the instructors and at least get that part and, to get their certification. And then, as a department, if you tell me you're scared to death of ladders, I'm not going to send you up a ladder.
You can testify to this.
Like Tyler said also, there is the rare occasion you may see or have to do something that kind of unpleasant, but that's a very, very small percentage of what we do. It's fairly rare for EMS, and for fire, it's probably even rare. I'd say almost 99% of our calls are, doing traffic on the highway while the wrecker gets a car out of there, or fighting brush fires, river rescues. But yeah, other than that, we need help. We need, I think our current roster is about 11 people. Well, our average for a call right now response is about 5. So, yeah.
Chief, question, and also for Todd too.
Is there any way, and this may be a crazy suggestion, but is there any way that maybe some of this what might be able to kind of diversify? What I'm thinking about is the driver of like the ambulance and the driver of the truck. Now I know that's the engineer, right? So that's a little funkier deal with the truck. But that maybe somebody who wouldn't necessarily have the capacity to do the lifting, because that's the concern, might be able to help with the driving piece, which then frees somebody else up to, do something else. But it might also be a way for folks who would love to help, but obviously, you know what I mean? But where they start to maybe get their foot in the door and get a little acclimated. I don't know. I just wonder if, we have a model. And if we have to go, let's think a little bit outside of the box and see if we can get other community people in, because then there might be more of a buzz around who their community is or their circle is and who they're talking. I don't know, just trying to.
To drive the fire truck, there is a separate class. You have to take a driver operator class. It's not terribly long, anything like that. We had actually, a few years ago when we redid our bylaws, we actually added something in that. I can't remember auxiliary people. They would have to take the driver operator course, and then once that happens, which it could be going on simultaneously, attend our meetings, get comfortable with the truck. You gotta know if they're driving it and they pull up and you say, we need water going and we need water on this hose, that they're gonna be competent to, get the job done.
That's a learned skill.
Yep.
How do you, right now you're advertising basically like through Facebook, or how do we get the word out to people and get people involved?
We try on Facebook. As far as fire, the best recruiting tool we've had is word of mouth. People talking to people. Somebody's got a friend, say, hey, you know what, why don't you, join? When I first joined, I think it was 1996, my dad, he's still on actually. He's got over 30 years on the department. There were several others. You had Steve Foy, Kelly White, Jamie White. You had Phil Haas, Todd Keith. You had these family units that did it. Now we have, like I said, my dad, myself, my son. We have Vicki Bakken and her daughter Andrea and her husband on. But that's all we have for the multi-generational. But a lot of it, like I said, is just word of mouth, talking to people. And sometimes when you have an interaction at a scene and somebody else is there, they see it, it piques their interest and stuff like that. And the main thing I get from a lot of people when they're asking, I can't do it. I could never do it. I can't handle the blood and guts. I couldn't handle it. And like I said, it's such a small part of what we do. And even if we show up to a crash and it's the most horrific thing you've ever seen, and we got people, there's traffic to be done. And like I said, that's where it goes back to, I'd never want to put anybody, in a position, but, full disclaimer, we're short-staffed and we're waiting for help to get there, but we need to get things done. We might have to say, you're gonna have to jump in your now. But generally, anything you're not comfortable with, we can find something for you to do that's not gonna be, related to that, like ladders or like I said, the blood, any of that kind of stuff. But directing traffic on scene is probably one of the most important things we do as far as firefighters. We've all driven Highway 14, you see what it's like, and then you had flashing lights and stuff like that, cell phones, everybody wants to see the crash, and I've said to many people, I feel safer running into a burning building than I do standing out on 14 directing traffic at times.
Yeah.
At least there you're in control of your own situation. So, yes, word of mouth on Tyler. I think you've had one of Hunter's friends join. That was kind of word of mouth. The last two recruits we had were, friends of my son. Unfortunately, they both moved away. at that age, and that's a problem we face too with recruitment of the younger people is, sounds great, I'm gonna join, year or two, they're like, I'm moving to a bigger city, moving closer to work, stuff like that, and then we lose them, so.
Todd, why don't you talk about the equipment needs? I know that you've been talking about a new fire truck lately.
Yeah, right now, our backup engine is a 1996 model. So we're looking at almost a 30-year mark. And actually, right now, to get a new one, it's roughly 18 months to 2 years to get a new one built. We've been working on hopefully getting it replaced for several years, but right now, the funding just isn't quite there. But our other engine is 2012. So, and we've had a few mechanical issues with that. If that one goes down for any amount of time, we rely on this 30-year-old, which it's, we've had to put some money in it, some repairs, but generally, it's been fairly reliable. But as we all know, as things age, things can happen without a moment's notice. Both of our brush trucks that we use for brush fires, pulling the boat to river calls, traffic, one of them is a 2005, 2006. So, they're starting to get up there in age. Our tender, most people call them tankers, which we only have one of right now. That's a 2006 also, I believe. And we've always had two of them. We got rid of the last one we had. It was kind of old and wasn't super reliable, and we've never replaced it, so that leaves us a little short on the water end when we initially get to the scene. And that's something there that I don't know if anyone's familiar with ISO ratings. It's the insurance rating for your municipality and all that. One of the things they do when they come in an audit is they go through all your trucks. What are your pumps? How many gallons per minute? How fast can you get people to the station and a truck out the door? And one of the biggest things is water on hand. And so we've been, Dustin's been writing grants for a few years. We got our last tender with a grant. I think it only cost the fire board taxpayers $26,000. Does that sound right, Karen? Do you remember?
I remember.
But most of it was paid for with a FEMA grant. And that's what we've been attempting to do now. But also with that, the new truck that we've been working on getting is what they call a tender pumper. Both our engines right now, one has 1,200 gallon tank, the other one has 1,000. This tender pumper would have a 2,500 gallon tank on it, which is several more minutes of water at a fire. It allows us more time to get out there. And it's got a pump on it. It's got a pump like an engine, but it's got the carrying capacity of a tender. So that would give us 5,000. So we'd be at almost 7,000 gallons of water showing up right away. And 500 gallons per minute is the lowest pump we have. Our big pump's 1,500 gallons per minute. So if you can imagine, if it's a big fire and we have two hoses flowing, 1,500 gallons per minute, it's still not going to take us long to drain that.
How much is that tender pumper?
Originally, when we started getting prices, the lower end quotes we had were around $388,000. Pierce, which is Reliant, they're kind of the Cadillac of fire engines. Dustin, do you remember what their quote was? That was closer to 6, wasn't it?
As of 6 months ago, they were at $518,000.
Yeah. So they went up from,
There's been almost a 40% increase over the last 2 years.
when we started 2 years ago, it was roughly 388,000, and now we're up over 513. And that's for the same truck. Nothing's changed. It's just the way it is. And we've done pretty good at getting this truck down to needs. Some departments like to have some wants on there to make it a little flashy, make it a little, better when you're in parades and stuff like that, but our purpose in specking out this truck with the manufacturer was to have another truck that can last this department for almost 30 years. So,
And lead time is 18 to 24 months after you
Still,
yep.
after you order it.
The biggest part is getting a chassis still. The chassis, it has gotten a little bit better, but that was, I mean, there were some people waiting almost a year for the chassis
Jeez.
or more, and then
and
we
we've also got a lot of other gear that's starting to start expiring in the next few years, like
Yeah.
all of our air packs. They'll have to be replaced.
And every
Okay.
10 years, our gear is supposed to be replaced. Our air packs right now, they're basically, we'll say 25-minute bottles. Most of the departments around us now have 45 minutes. You know, and sometimes if we run into issues of that with the air filling stations, if somebody's got one on their rig, sometimes they're not able to handle that. But you know, for the amount we use them, hopefully, you know, they still work. But like I said, there's state regulations, national regulations on how often you have to turn that equipment over before it's not. As far as our trucks, all they have to do, our engines just have to pass our yearly pump testing.
Do the pumps have to be recertified every so often?
The pump?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Every year.
Every year we have to do the pump testing.
right, but I mean, how old they can be before you have to have them completely recertified?
No, as long as they meet the qualifications of the pump testing, they basically pump it up and it's got to hold pressure for so long without losing pressure and such. Then they're good to go. I don't know how much longer, you know, they're gonna let the 1,200 gallon per minute pumps go. You know, I could see them within the next few years, even, you know, passing it, that you have to have a minimum of a 1,500 gallon per minute pump. Granted, there would probably be some grandfathering involved with that, but it seems like the way things go with the fire and EMS stuff, they're not too fond of grandfathering things in anymore. You know,
They want new.
yeah,
But as far as individual equipment and everything, you've got, I mean, you have enough for the roster and everything.
we got
Backups.
we got a lot of gear. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
But you say too that it needs to be replaced.
Yep. And it said I believe it's every 10 years.
10 years.
Yep. Or every 10 years, or even if you get a little burn mark on a cuff, a little tear.
Okay.
Once that happens, it's not non-compliant.
Okay. What year are you now for most of your gear?
We've been really good about budgeting and cycling through, so every year we buy over 2 to 3 replacement sets every year, just so that way we don't end up with everyone out of compliance.
But now I think we're like 3 years, 2 to 3 years removed now, because we just got the last group of people
Okay.
all up to snuff, and now the original ones, like my gear is some of the oldest. You know, back then when we had more people, you know, and a lot of the older folks that, you know, could run pumps and do stuff like that, the priority was the younger crew, the guys that are gonna be going into the fire, they're gonna be doing, you know, that kind of work. You know, so they'd start replacing their gear first and then, you know, work their way down.
Sure. So you get what would be easier though? So many sets every year or every couple of years, or to be able to go out at once and switch everything out?
Budgeting wise, it's been
Budget,
years.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you had the money,
And
it'd be,
actually for that, we get money that's called the 2% dues, that the
Okay.
state gives us, and with that, roughly 6,000, I didn't bring my,
Oh, it's about 10.
or 10. That's for fire, for gear, fire protective clothing, fire education, prevention
Inspections.
programs, stuff like that. The last couple of years, I think about 3 years ago, we bought a they call it a gear extractor. It's a special washing machine that's designed to help pull more of the carcinogens and stuff out of our gear.
Okay.
With the hopes that more people would, because before we just had to take them home and pull them apart and put them in our own washer, and dryers, and it beats the snot out of them.
Yeah.
So we got that, hoping that, people's gear will get washed more often. And then last year, I think we got the gear dryer. So like I said before, you had to just hang it up or put it in your dryer, to dry. Now we have the gear dryer, so you can just hang them up in there and let that dry it for you. It just hangs there and blows and circulates air through it. So, and that was paid for with 2% dues money. I mean, ideally, I'd like to have to buy 1 to 2 sets of gear a year because we had recruits coming in that needed it. But initially, when you first join, we give you a set of gear. I'm not going to say old gear, it's compliant gear still, because you have to have that to go through the class.
Okay.
You have to have gear that's up to code and stuff like that, but we're not going to just jump right out and spend $3,000 some dollars on a bunch of gear for people that might last 6 months.
Right. You gotta watch that too.
We get them through that first year probationary period where they attend the meetings and stuff like that.
Okay.
Anything else for Todd on the fire department? Okay, thank you, Todd. I'd like to go back and revisit a couple things, especially with EMS. But what Tyler said and what Todd said is that we're short of people. And traditionally, we've been a volunteer services until recently when we had to hire EMS, full-time EMS for the daytimes, weekdays. That pool of people that are interested in volunteering anymore is awfully small. And I don't know, I mean, there's a lot of people in the village that I don't know. I don't have a clue what their names are. I don't know how to get a hold of them or how to talk to them. And if you try to go door to door, they're not very receptive for that. So I don't know how to get the word out to people that might be interested in volunteering. But Todd, how many people do you think the fire department could use right now if they were to have a pot of volunteers available?
I mean, ideally, I'd like to have double. I mean, if we had 22 people, something like that, and you figure half of them show up, which, with their busy lives, work, everything, if you get half, right now we get about half to show up, but we're only dealing with 11 people. But as far as like a managing standpoint, when I first became chief a few years ago, my goal was to try and get 2 new recruits a year. Because we have limited number of people now. It's not like back in the day when we'd have 20 people running around and they could mentor these people, show them the ropes. Now we need the people there with the experience doing these things, so it's harder to, if you had 4 or 5 new recruits, they're going to be kind of standing around, and so my goal, like I said, would be get, 2 people a year. You could probably do 4 if it got spaced out a little bit, a spring semester and a fall semester in the classes, but they said that if you get too many, you hate to use the term, but it turns into babysitting,
Okay.
at once.
Well, I know my experience from EMS is that if we had a class and we got 2 or 3 people in, new people, there would be a couple or 3 older people that would retire, that would say, all right, you got enough help now, you don't need me anymore. And that's what happens, is you have a hard time building your numbers because other people drop out. Tyler, how many people do you think the EMS could stand if we could, if we had that pot of recruits?
I would say at least 22, probably 25 would be more comfortable. I mean, right now we have 4 that are active, 9 on the roster. We're going to get 2 more at the end of the month, or hopefully within the next week, because all the paperwork is going through the state. They'll only be EMRs though, so they can help make a legal crew, but they can't be at the forefront to make the whole crew work. The other idea with them is they will be taking the EMT class in the fall. So hopefully by the end of the year, I will have a couple more EMTs, and then I will start pushing again this summer to try to get people, hopefully 1 or 2. I'm trying 1 right now, pretty good, to get them in the fall classes. Just try to like slowly get somewhat. And like Steve says, it's always people come up and then they're like, "Oh, you're good." You know, people have had so many years of service and then they want to retire. I mean, it's a tasking job sometimes, and it's more than warranted if you want to.
Okay. Well, I'd like to work with the EMS a little bit and talk about numbers. I started on the ambulance squad in 1980, and up till just a few years ago, and I mean just a very few years ago, we always ran with 3-person crews, a driver and 2 people for in the back with the patient. And the drivers don't have to be licensed with the state for any medical purposes. But most of the time they were. But we did have drivers that were not part of the, weren't EMTs or EMRs. Anymore, we have so few people. We have, Tyler went over it, but quickly, we have 6 volunteers and 3 full-time, daytime, weekday EMTs. And we will be getting 2 more, maybe, if everything goes okay.
No, they pass the classes, so we will get them. It's
Okay.
just,
All right. Well, and if they'll do the service, we've had a lot of times we've had people go through the classes and invest all that time and energy into passing the class, and then decide they didn't want to do any time on the ambulance. It wasn't for them. So that's always a possibility. But what we try to do is schedule 12-hour shifts. So 6 in the morning till 6 at night, and then again 6 at night till 6 in the morning then. But we're not hard and fast with that, because we have a program that lets us go in and on the computer and just pick out the hours that we are available, and we have a lot of people that split their shifts. So it's not like we force people to take a 12-hour shift all at one time. As a matter of fact, I've seen as little as 2 or even 1 hour to fill in for somebody else that needed that time off. If you talk about the full-time EMTs, they work Monday through Friday during the daytime, 6 in the morning until 6 at night.
oh no, it's Monday through Saturday.
Well, let me go back. They do once in a while do a Saturday, not all the time though, right?
I would say more often they are on Saturday than not on Saturday. Yeah.
Well, you and I had to argue about that. But at any rate, if you add up 3 people doing 3 shifts a week, because that's 36 hours, that's what they get paid for, it works out to 9 shifts. And in a 5-day week, there's 5 shifts, and you have to have 2 people per shift in order to make a crew. So you actually are short a half a day in order to have a full crew. I don't know if you get the numbers or not. You have to have 2 per shift, and we don't have enough to do 2 per shift with only 3 full-time people. So not even counting Saturday. But we do have 1 volunteer that volunteers, like Tyler said, nearly 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. As a matter of fact, that volunteer, and I'm not going to use any names for anybody, that volunteer last year in 2023 did about 89% of the shifts for the service. So that's a lot for one person. But that person accepts that. As a matter of fact, gets upset if you don't let them do their shifts. We have another person that only works nights and weekends on EMS, and they did like 49% of the shifts for the year. And then we have a third person that did, I don't remember the number right now. I don't even have the number for it. But anyway, they filled in, pretty much filled in for one of the other two that couldn't be on call. So we're running with 2 people per crew, and 2 of the people are doing a huge share of the load. And everybody has their own reasons for not volunteering. Even the volunteers we have other commitments. Everybody has jobs, and sometimes 2 jobs or more, and got kids and all the commitments that go with kids. So there's a lot of pressure on their time. So we're not pointing fingers at anybody. We're just saying that our ambulance service runs on a pretty skeleton crew. And if something would happen to one of our volunteers that do the majority of those runs, the rest would have to step up, or else we would be out of service. In Wisconsin, if you can't come up with your 2-man crew, you're allowed to call mutual aid from another municipality, which we have mutual aid agreements with many municipalities, but Spring Green and Mazo District 1 from Dane County and Barneville would be the close ones for us. And we've had to do that, and they do that for us too. Spring Green right now is having a bad time with weekday calls, and I've been told more than once that they're glad that we have full-time daytime EMTs, because otherwise they would have problems. So I'm just trying to get to the point where people understand that someday people are going to call 911 and there's not going to be anybody to respond, or the people that respond will have to come from further away. The state really needs to step in, because it's not just Arena, it's every community is having the very same problem. Even full-time ambulance services have hard time staffing their ambulances. The state needs to set up either by county or by districts, and everybody needs to get paid by the state, and then that money that's required would be spread out over all the taxpayers in the state, rather than each village and each township having to provide their own service.
Do you really think that's a possible?
Not anywhere, anytime in the future. No, not anytime in the near future, no. As a matter of fact, I understand, I saw an email today, and I don't know how long it's been in effect, but the state actually has reminded people, municipalities, that they have to provide the same level of service this year as they did last year, otherwise they're going to lose state aid. Because municipalities have been trying to cut back. There's been villages and townships that have joined together to make bigger departments, but it doesn't really solve a problem, because you're still trying to pay for that expense. So I guess that's where I was coming from. I wanted to make sure everybody understood how urgent the situation is. And if we have a way, if anybody can come up with a way to reach people in our community that are available, that would be willing, that we just can't get a hold of, I'd like to hear about that.
How effective, I'm going to ask everybody here, and, Nick, Stephanie, Todd, Cord, all you guys answered too, and everybody is how effective. Like you mentioned, knocking on doors. I'm going to disagree a little bit on that because I've been knocking on doors, and people have answered them. And but I do agree. A lot of people have Ring doorbells now, so they just don't answer them. But it still can be effective. But how effective do you think bringing like Steve's stats here? What he had that we have one EMT that's doing 89% of the work, another EMT that's doing 49% of the work. To get that out there, how do you think that would help you if people would, non-members of the fire department, EMT, the police department would get out there and try and help recruit for like because you had safety days and things like that, but to really put facts out there. And would you mind if people would volunteer to go door to door in order to communicate through email or Facebook? And as residents, how effective do you think that would be? So it's kind of a two-part question.
One thing we see is most people don't realize how important what we do actually is until they need you.
Right.
We've had several meetings leading up to the hiring of full-time EMTs, meeting after meeting. And I'm not saying they weren't justified, but it was excuses and next man up. Well, I have 2 kids and I work during the day and I'm tired when I get home. But what about you? Well, I have a kid and I volunteer here. I can't do it, but what about you? It was just, my excuse is better than yours, so you need to step up because I can't do it.
And then it was even brought to the attention of hiring an outside service to come and fill our station,
Right.
Having Baraboo come in, and the cost with that. And some people, rather than donate their time, would rather pay extra taxes to do that. Me either, but it's just one of those things where some people were like, whatever, hire it out. And I was like, wait a minute.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Todd, it was $876,000 to have Ryan Brothers come in and staff our department.
That was a couple years ago. It's probably over $1 million now.
Barneville has just got a quote, I think, like a year or so ago, and I think they were right around that.
Anybody that would hire people to come in and staff our ambulance would pay as much or more than what we could hire our own people to do and staff the ambulance without the extra that goes along with it. So it never did make sense to hire somebody to come in and staff.
And I guess one thing too is we'd also lose the ambulance revenue. If we had an outside agency like Ryan Brothers or some of those, there's a equipment fund, I guess, that right off the bat, off our yearly budget, and you can correct me at any time here, $25,000 comes off of our general fire and EMS budget from estimated EMS revenue. So that's $25,000 that gets taken off the total right before anything ever happens. And then any additional EMS revenue would go into an equipment fund. When it comes time to replace a new fire truck, a new ambulance, we've got several years worth of this money in there, and it could be $250,000 that comes right off of the price of the truck. So it would take that $500,000 truck and drop it down to $250,000. Right now, currently one of our full-time EMTs is being paid for out of that fund now because of lack of funding. And I guess the referendum had passed and there was money there at that time for it, but then last year, I think that's when it got, was it last year, Karen? So now we're losing one person full-time wage out of that revenue also. So when it comes time to replace the truck, there's gonna be less in there. I know it probably, toss up of whether, the extra money on your taxes, would be in the taxes or want sometime to pay for a truck, but, you know, we are kind of dipping into the piggy bank to pay for everybody right now.
So you could have, public safety is gonna cost you no matter what. You know, in public safety, it's police, it's fire, it's EMTs. You know, estimate at having EMT service come in around $1 million. And what's it costing us now? You can say public safety is costing too much. How much too much do you want to pay? Outside people coming in, that type of service, or try and make a commitment to get more people involved.
So what was done in years past for recruitment for these services? I mean, I guess
We used to have open houses.
Yeah.
That people would come in and look at the fire trucks, you know, they're bringing their kids. Some of them would sign up, some of them wouldn't. Over the years, it kind of went down numbers to a point where it was like, oh, we're here for 8 hours and 2 people showed up just to show their kids a truck,
Sure.
which is fine. We did safety days for a while. We tried to do some fun things with all sorts of different areas of public safety. So there would, you know, it was a fun kind of carnival event. And I think those went pretty well. I don't know that we got a lot of recruitment out of those, but we certainly tried.
Sure.
We've done ads, we've done, you know, Facebook posts, we've done
Signs on the highway.
signs on the high. Oh yes, I remember my signs blowing away. Yes, banners. I mean, just
Everything.
just about
But
anything we could.
the
come
most
up with.
successful though is still, you know somebody that might be interested, so you tell somebody on the squad and they go and talk to them.
That's
and-
how
and try
Steve
to-
got me. So Mike
We
was
did a lot
talking
of
to
that.
my
As
neighbor.
a matter of fact, we had a crisis, over 20 years ago where our EMS department had gotten down in numbers, and a group of us just sat in a circle and just named off all of the people that we knew that could potentially be EMTs, and we made a list and we contacted every one of those people, and we recruited probably 20 people over a couple of year period. Some of them didn't do EMT class; they did EMR class, which was different then than it is now. But it built our numbers up for a while, but now it's been drifting back down again. But that's the best way to do it is to get a name and then a contact information and just contact somebody and explain the need and explain what happens, what you need to do, and see if they're interested.
If I could say, I don't think it's so much that recruitment has changed. It's that, like they mentioned before, in the past, it's all been family, relatives that were on it together, but you've also had your farmers, those who work close by within the community. You didn't need to worry about somebody who works in Madison, doesn't get home until 6 o'clock, then they gotta be on shift at 6 o'clock, then they have kids and supper to make, what if a call comes in. A lot has changed, not so much just the recruitment, but the ability to recruit has changed. And with that also came more stringent regulations with the state as far as fire EMS. Back in the day when I up north, I went to a 3-week class to be a first responder. Well, now it's a several month class to be an EMR. And then a several month more class to be an EMT. You're really committing yourself now with these changes, and that is the most difficult part to overcome. Because you need to set aside times that you have to be in this class, and the state makes it harder and harder every year, it seems. And like they said, they'll have folks that have gone through the EMT class, but then it's time to sign on. It's more difficult. So like I said, it's not the recruitment has changed; it's the ability to recruit has become more difficult.
Yeah, I always told people that it's not just a person volunteering; it's their whole family because when they're committed, their whole family is committed. I can remember some arguments in my household years ago where I was on call for the weekend. I couldn't leave. And other people in the family said, well, why don't we go here? Or why don't we go there? It just happens. It's, you're committed. But anyway, that's more into that than I wanted to get.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else for,
So one quick question. So you guys have tried the open house thing before. What about trying that now again? There's a lot of new housing that's gone up in town. A lot of new people have come to town here, and just try the open house thing again. See what kind of response you get. Have a detailed board as to we have all these different kinds of shifts and the options that are available. If you're an EMT, you don't have to do just this. You can do this, do this.
We had 2 events at the station last year. We did a safety days thing, and then we were open for the historians day, for part of the centennial. And we gave out 0 applications.
Really?
Yeah. The only application I can remember, and I don't know if he joined, when we were doing our drawing for our raffle Super Bowl Sunday and pizza delivery, we had a gentleman stop in and ask for an application for EMS, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, we've done like I said, we've done the safety days thing, and I said people show up usually when MedFlight comes. That's the big highlight. That's when everybody shows up.
I wondered why that was there. I could see it right from my bedroom window, like my house. So yeah, I wondered.
Like this year, we hadn't done it while COVID and all that stuff happened. We went away, and so then we decided to do it this year. And normally we would have music or something afterwards to do the whole like beer tent thing and stuff like that. And the last year we did it, we had a DJ, and by 8 o'clock we were down to one drunk gentleman from Germany who was here visiting friends by 8 o'clock at night. That was it.
Yeah.
And so we shut it down early.
Yeah.
It said our fundraising's been pretty much limited to our raffles and our pizza delivery within the village and township.
Do you make a lot of money with that?
We do very well with that, yes. And this year, the first year, we sold all of our raffle tickets. We sold all 1,000, and we did very well on the donations for the pizza delivery day. We only did 41, which is down from the year before, but we still did very well with the donations on that. So, and those donations there helped us pay for doing that and some grants and selling some old equipment. A couple years ago, we got a brand new Polaris Ranger for brush fires, and we did a much needed upgrade on our motor for our boat, which increased our top speed of 11 miles an hour on the old one to nearly 30 miles an hour with the new one, which with not having a boat landing here in town anymore to launch from, we're launching from Whitwer Road down at Traders Island. So that speed there could, potentially be life-saving, almost triple the speed. So, and that was all paid for with grants from a couple local businesses, the DNR, and donations that we made from our pizza delivery and then our gun raffles. So.
well, we should probably keep moving here. If there
Yeah.
isn't any other questions on fire EMS, then we'll move on and let Courtney give.
Could I just interrupt because police and fire EMT are so tied in together. Todd, you gave me an example of how the police department with their drone saved you guys a lot of work.
Yep. A couple years ago on Memorial Day weekend, the temperatures got down below 0. We had a call earlier that day, and we rescued a group that flipped over their canoes. That night, shortly after dark, we got paged out again for some individual that had rolled their canoes. They were wet and cold, and obviously I think it was like 28 degrees. Without having the boat landing here, we knew they were somewhere up this way, but our only choice was to launch at Traders. We had the boat headed down to Traders Island to launch the boat, and I believe it was Officer Miller, Deputy Miller, got out with the drone at the Reno boat landing, and he discovered the individuals were about 200 yards down from the boat landing on the same side of the river. We didn't have to launch the boat in the dark and make the long trek up there in the dark to find them. We just walked out there and walked them back and helped drag their stuff back to their car, and they could get warmed up. You know, it saved, you know, river's dangerous as it is, nighttime it's even worse. And the time that drone has saved us, found people before, as we're getting the boat in the water even. You know, it's really helped our response time in many situations.
Public safety and police,
Okay.
you're up.
Alrighty. I'm Courtney Norton, part of the Public Safety Committee. Been serving, I don't even remember, I was trying to remember, 10, 12 years, something like that. It's been a while. Former EMS director, EMT, I was on fire department a little bit, work with police as they show up to our scenes as well. So when they asked me, I think it was Paul that asked me to join, and I joined and have been doing Public Safety Committee for quite a while. Police department has been an important part of who Arena is. Arena is known to have tough cops, and I think that's an awesome thing. People know not to speed when you're going through Arena. Drug dealers know not to drive through Arena. I think that's because of the presence that they have. Not only in that, but in also working with fire and EMS. So the police department has been, you know, they're in their vehicles the majority of the time, whereas EMTs and firefighters, before the full-time EMTs came on, we were all responding from home, whether it be from the village or from the township. And so we were minutes out to getting to the station. They were in their vehicles. They were the ones that, that were there first. So they could call us and say, downgrade, this isn't as urgent as dispatch makes it seem, or, oh, step it up a notch, we need you here now. They could give a first in fire report. This is what I see. This is, you know, the smoke I see. This is what structure's burning. That way we knew, all of us responding, what we needed to grab at the station to help better respond. So vital there. 7 o'clock test page, sorry. It's not one thing, it's another. They've been able to get the drone, which is huge. They're trained in using that drone. We've used it for a lot of the river rescues. We've also used it just in car accidents where somebody may have rolled, there's a vehicle sitting there, but we don't see people. So are these people running through the forest? Are they, you know, in there injured and we need to find them? Have they been picked up? We don't know. A couple years ago, we did something over by Traders Landing, and it was, you know, a vehicle that had been abandoned there, rolled over. They brought it up, and we went searching through the woods trying to find people. But instead of going through the thick of the woods with our fire gear or EMS gear getting all scratched up, they were able to determine that there wasn't a person out there. We thought we may have found someone, and then as we got closer with the drone, we realized it was a deer that was sleeping, and, you know, just moved on. But that's vital to have, because you don't know. Years ago, there was a car accident on Highway 14, and I remember the gentleman that was there, and he kept asking about, I believe it was his sister or his wife, and so we were confused as to whether or not she was in the vehicle or not. And if she was not in the vehicle, where the heck is she? And that was a person with a head injury. So they may have just been asking for help, but here we are going, oh, crud, is there somebody else that flew out of that vehicle? And so we had people out searching many years before the drone. So the drone.
Brush fires too. You guys want just for brush fires to scout ahead of the fire.
Yeah, that's vital to see where it is, where you can attack from, where you need to go in at. I know one of the comments at the last meeting was that the police budget was half or more than half of what the village was paying. And I get that, but I also see from the public safety side what the police do and what they bring to the village, what they bring to the surrounding people. So that being said, I've always supported the police. They've in turn supported fire and EMS. I think it's just this great bond that we have, that we're there for each other. Not too happy that the committee was kind of just disbanded without being talked to. So I'm just gonna lay that out there. Officers have put in their resignation letters for May 8th. That all of the minutes and everything was forwarded to the village. Nobody has reached out since then to try to touch base, see what they can do, keep working towards having the police here. So it makes me think that it's more of a financial decision, that they don't know how to manage the money, and so then maybe getting rid of a big dollar budget, they're going to feel a little more at ease. That's just my 2 cents. But honestly, I think we need a police department.
Me too. So the survey that the village sent out to all of us
It's not accurate.
right. So it's saying, what would you prefer? And I don't know, it's pretty vague. So
Well,
we all fill it out, say, yeah, we all want the way that it is. We want 2 full-time and we want all of these things. Then are they really going to attempt to keep that? Or, right, are they going to do whatever they want anyways?
In my workings with the village,
Yeah.
I was on as director when we hired the 3 full EMTs. Tyler being one, who then took over after me. And, they were able to come up with the money for the first year. And I said, realize we're keeping them. We need to plan for the next year. And then we need to plan for raises because that's going to be part of what we need to do. And the next year came and they were like, I don't know what to do. And the year after that, it was, we don't have the money. And it's like,
Who's managing it?
that I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, who's responsible? Who's making these decisions?
Right.
I mean, the people should be the ones making the decision,
Yes.
not 2 or 3 people say, oh, we can get by without having a police department.
Right.
Who talked to us?
Right. Well, and that survey that went out is not what our officers are doing currently. So when they say the current status, it wasn't even put on there. Our officers are part-time now because they took jobs with the county, and that's not even an option on there. They want either you're going to come back full-time and you're going to do this, or we're going to do this. You'll hire the county for 4 hours to do
To do what?
basically enforce any violations to anything and go deliver tickets to people's houses.
Oh my gosh, that's so awful. So then what happens if you do call 911? Do you have to wait for Iowa County to come out? Oh, that's...
Can be 20 minutes.
Yeah, so we had 20, they're in Dodgeville, we gotta wait for them to get here from Dodgeville.
Yeah, exactly.
It just makes no sense.
And which that in turn impacts fire and EMS, with the right to domestic, stuff like that. Friday night, we had a call where the vehicle was rolled and one of the subjects took off, and one of our firefighters was actually keeping an eye on him, waiting for the, deputies to show up, and I believe the person ended up surrendering to the firefighter. But that could have been a dangerous situation right there. You show up to a crash, somebody's got drugs, they don't want to go, and, there may be a time where our actions as firefighters or EMTs may have to get put on hold while we wait for a deputy, depending on how come from Mineral Point, come from Highland, to get there to make that scene safe before we can actually do our job. Which we never had to worry about in the past, when we had, the officers here.
We had we have no mutual aid anymore with Township and Iowa County. Nick, could you point out a good reason why the mutual aid worked? That one example you gave was a while ago. I remember it was a fire just right on the other side of the village line.
Well, what got us to start discussing an MOU, memorandum of understanding regarding this automatic mutual aid, is there was a fire at a camper on, remember that one next to you there? There was a fire, but it was in the township. A mobile home or a RV trailer was on fire, as well as some other items in that yard were on fire. It was 50 to 100 feet outside the village limits. So our officers have no jurisdiction there. They have no jurisdictional authority. The property owner started getting into it with the firefighters, causing a scene, trying to prevent the firefighters from doing their job and doing it safely. And so other firefighters had to step in to hold that person back while the rest went and did their job. Now you're taking firefighters off the scene to deal with the police matter. And one of our officers was on duty, and he requested to go to that call. He was there, and they said, no, we're sending a deputy. It didn't seem like an urgent call. I was on the scene as a firefighter, and I hollered for that officer to come over. So he came over to the scene, and he dealt with that issue while the firefighters dealt with the fire issue. It was at that point that I decided that something else needed to be done. So we entered into a memorandum of understanding, automatic mutual aid within the township for fire, EMS, and law enforcement calls.
I would also say that you guys developed a internship program through the tech schools that have people interested in becoming officers, where they're able to go and be with our officers 4 hours, whatever hours they're required for classes and things like that, even beyond. And the majority of the time, correct me if I'm wrong, those that did serve as interns then were hired on.
And not just with us. I would say at one point it was about 90% of our interns got hired into a law enforcement position, either with us or another agency in Wisconsin, either right at the end of their internship or while they're still in the internship. Our program is used by over a dozen other agencies in Wisconsin, and Southwest Tech did approach us, and they wanted our program to be integrated in with the criminal justice program at the college level.
And how that internship program, that was started before you took over as chief,
Correct.
right? I mean,
2012, I believe.
yeah, that was started by the previous chief. So, I mean, really, that's something to Arena can hang their hat on. Our police department is always, like internship. These kids, I'm going to be 66, so everybody's a kid, would come and get trained the right way in Arena. And a lot of, they donated it. And the police department's been doing that for a long, long time. And you bring up the mutual aid. The mutual aid is gone now. It's not about, and the mutual aid wasn't about, we're out there, so we should be paid for that. No, the mutual aid is for lives and helping people.
Neighbors helping neighbors.
Yeah, and that's so much more important than
where the line is.
Yeah, and I got to shut up now.
We built a lot of relationships within the township.
If Stephanie, you and Nick could speak now, that'd be great. A little bit.
I mean, I'm always happy to answer questions, but
Yeah.
with that, we've been here for a long time. And we've built a lot of relationships with our village residents, our town residents. So when we started this mutual aid, a lot of times we would get calls or text messages or messenger messages from folks, village or township, saying, hey, this is what's going on, or hey, can we do this, or can you come do this? Things of that nature, and that was huge. It's huge. When you have a responder, whether it's fire or EMS, you don't need to say it, but if you have a medical emergency, a medical history, and the same EMT goes to your house every time that you have that emergency, they get to know you, and they know what works and what doesn't, and what it will take to calm you down, or who to contact, what kind of medications you're on, things like that, right? And that's how it was with law enforcement as well. That's much more comforting than to have an unknown every single time. So that was huge for us as well as all the residents, village, township, and surrounding communities as well. That is, somebody had mentioned, looking at 20-minute response time. Unfortunately, with the sheriff's office, minimum staffing levels right now is 2. You have 2 deputies on to cover the entire county.
Wow. That's.
And that can be, like somebody had said, they might be coming from Highland. If there's a domestic, you're going to send 2. If there's a crash, you're going to send 2. That's going to take up both of the deputies. and now response time to emergency is gonna take longer. They're gonna have to contact Mazo, Maney, Black Earth, somebody in Dane County or Spring Green or Sauk County. And there's been discussion of if the Village of Arena officers leave the village, that township is gonna get built. Do you think that other townships, they're aware of it, do you think they won't then turn around and build the village if they have to come into the community?
Right.
That's how that works as well. So there's a lot of moving parts, unfortunately, that have been affected.
And for years, the budgets, the police department budget, I can attest to it. They've always been exact. For 3 years, they didn't take raises so they could buy equipment that they needed. But the fire EMT departments, I was on fire board too. Their budgets from year to year did not vary that much. They were very extremely prudent with their funds. And we've always been able to work with fire EMTs and police. Yeah, were there times where, okay, yeah, we put this off for now, but you did that for public safety, for the sake of public safety, for the town and village residents. And I mean, as it stands, we have no police force as of May 8th. And our fire and EMT situation is dire too. And in the meantime, we have a water tower that needs to be recoded. That's going to cost between $200,000 and $400,000. That nobody paid attention to a 2019 survey report that this was going to be done and slated to be done, should have been slated to be done and planned for to be done in 2023. At last month's board meeting, this got brought up and everybody was surprised. I got a copy of the 2019 survey report. It's a zip file. It's a big file. I went through it. I'll go through it again. It's a very detailed file. But this is something that should have been planned for, and it's a big reason why, money-wise, we've got to cut other necessary departments in this village. When you're faced with a $200,000 to $400,000 bill that should have been planned for 5 years and wasn't.
Plus your water will probably go up too.
In waters, they'll probably have a water rate because actually Arena has not had a water rate raise for, I think it was 2004, so yeah, it's justified.
They said at the last board meeting that with the 8%, the water bills would be going up, and they wouldn't break even at 8%.
Okay, and there is there was a comment in the water. There is $359,000 that the village has water sewer funds that can help pay to recoat the water tower. Okay, that's great, that's fine, but you spend some of that, half of it, whatever, to do the water tower. You know how long it's going to take to build that reserve fund back up, even if you raise water rates? You know how many years it took to build that reserve up of about $359,000? So a raise in water rates, yeah, it's going to help, but it's going to take a long time to build that reserve back up again.
Well, getting back to police though.
So, yeah, sorry. But that's how it's all related, I guess. I was trying to.
Yeah,
okay.
it's all tied together.
You got to tell me to be quiet.
Okay. I can't even count how many times I was on ambulance calls over the years that the police were there and they assisted. They maybe helped move a patient out of a house into the ambulance or onto the stretcher. They did CPR with us. Todd already talked about the river rescues and the drone. They were invaluable, and we really do need to have people available when we need it. And now we're running with only 2 people crews on the ambulance. We need that help even more now. And thank you very much you and Stephanie and
Thank you.
Officer Miller, very valuable.
Even the missing person, we had a couple winters ago. I mean, we kind of worked hand in hand on
Absolutely.
that, fire and law enforcement, and was able to locate the individual and get him to safety, and everything worked out well there.
I guess I want to clarify a few rumors that I've heard, and I don't know if they've made it this far or if this is where they were talked about or not, but there was a board member who attended this meeting a few months back and said that your police department quit and you no longer have a police department. That's not true by any means. In fact, that board member was present when we didn't quit. You need to hold your members accountable. Ask the questions, demand the answers, but you need to hold them accountable. I've had folks ask us, you guys quit? No, we didn't quit. We went down to part-time back in November. We're still working. I've already put in 12 hours in the last 2 weeks right now. We're still working. That board member demanded that we respond or that we be present at a meeting. How can we be present and be demanded to be present if we're not working, if we're not employed, if we quit? Okay, so you need to understand that that was not true. We did not quit. We value this community way too much to quit. And there was another rumor that we purchased the drone and we went to the board and said, hey, we bought this for a lot of money. Now we need you to pay for it. That's not true. That came out of my police budget. We forewent raises and other equipment to purchase that asset, which is what it was, a very valuable asset. It saved that last summer. We had those two females that tipped their canoes or kayaks just down the river, but fire because of the low water level in the boat landing had to go down to Trader's area to launch. And we were able to launch our drone immediately. We weren't even working, but we lived here. We immediately launched that drone from the boat landing. We found the individuals. We kept eyes on the individuals and directed fire to the individuals. And had they floated away or something had happened, we could have followed them to see where they were going to go. See if they grabbed onto a different branch somewhere else, what have you. They're so valuable. Somebody said, get Spring Green's drone. To the best of my knowledge, Spring Green PD doesn't have a drone. And I don't know if the fire department has a drone. I know they were looking at getting one, and we went down and demoed ours. We were just requested to go to their village this past weekend for a call. The police department was. How can they rely on us if we rely on them? Or vice versa. Get it from them. Well, they're asking for it from us. So no, we didn't purchase that drone and then go and ask the board to pay for it for us. That came out of our budget. We took a hit on it. So be it. It was necessary. We all thought it was necessary. We all discussed it as a department. Talked to our committee. So to clarify those two rumors especially, I know I've spoken with a few of you over the years. I always am up for discussions and questions. I would rather you ask me a question, wake me up, stop by the house, call me, text me, whatever, and ask a question and get the answer than to assume or get your information about our agency from somebody else that doesn't have the proper information. And that's what leads to this. And now the purpose behind us, I don't know that a lot of you were at the last board meeting or our committee meeting. If I'm talking too much,
Nope, go
Nope.
ahead.
shut me up.
Go for it.
Nope.
We weren't going to quit. We had no intention of quitting. I've been here since 2007 as an officer. Stephanie's been here going on 4 years. Wyatt's been here 5 years. We all live in the village. We enjoy working here. We know everybody knows us. It's fantastic. I don't need to write everybody a ticket. I can go knock on your door and say, hey, bring your garbage can. Simple as that, right? Hey, don't forget to register your dog. Sorry, I forgot about it. No worries. What's when you get it done, right? But then the board put out that survey. You had your three options. Continue with 2 full-time, 1 part-time. That's not what we currently have. That's what we had. They didn't like that. Okay. Option 2 was 1 full-time officer. Do you think after all of this that any of us three want to leave a full-time secure position to go back to full-time in a place where we didn't feel secure?
Right.
What's gonna happen then? We're secure for a year, new board members come in, and now we don't have a job again? Right? Or option three, the county comes in and covers for 4 hours a week. Pardon my language, why the hell can't your current officers cover the village for 4 hours a week? You've got an officer working, Sergeant Miller, with his K-9 partner, 30 hours a week, right now, currently. And I'm doing the administrative paperwork and duties, and those hours vary. Why can't we stay with that? Why isn't that an option for the residents to have? Why do you want to pay almost $70 an hour to the county to have them come in for 4 hours a week? To do just ordinance enforcement, I believe is what the survey said. Arena is small. We are very proactive, I'll tell you that. I'm sure you've heard, you don't speak to Arena, somebody else said it. Yeah, we're pretty lenient on that. I mean, we're not gonna play over going 5 or 10 miles over, right? But a lot of folks have slowed down. That's fantastic. Where's the problem with that? How come no one's going 90 anymore? I'm sorry, right? We get those speeds though. We get 80s, 90s, 100s on Highway 14. We get those. But they've dwindled. The crashes have dwindled. Not saying it's on us, just saying that we've seen that. That's fantastic, right? We have a very small agency. There's 9 agencies in Iowa County, including the Sheriff's Office. 3 of them are full-time. The Sheriff's Office, the City of Dodgeville, and the City of Mineral Point. Those are all full-time agencies, 24/7. Everybody else is part-time agencies. They don't work 24/7. The Arena Police Department has put in more criminal complaints, which is criminal charges for somebody, incidents. We have put in more than the City of Mineral Point, mind you, they're full-time. The City of Mineral Point, Highland, Avoca, Linden, Barneveld, and Ridgeway combined. Crimes are occurring. Some are occurring within the village, some are occurring going through the village. We're stopping the drugs. We have more drug seizures in Arena, little old Arena, than the rest of the county does. Minus the task force, the guys that work just the drug stuff. That is their job. They get the big stuff. That's all they focus on with the Sheriff's Office. Minus them, Arena seizes the majority of more drugs in Arena than the rest of the county does. I'm sorry. I guess I owe an apology to somebody because that's pissing people off.
You're just doing your job. And you're doing it well.
And we have folks that have prisoners or folks that have been arrested and being transported to other agencies, other jails, what have you, that have said, oh, Arena, hey, you don't go through Arena drugs. They've said this. We've been told by transport deputies. I'm sorry. I don't think the BP is upset that they're not getting drug addicts, drug dealers frequenting their business. With drugs comes money. If you can't get the money, you don't have the money, you're going to get the money by stealing. Okay? You're going to then protect your money or protect your drugs with violence. We're out there by ourselves. Yes, we've got a K-9. We had 2 until one retired and passed on. Now we're down to 1 K-9. Does a fantastic job. Requested through Dane County and Sauk. We've gone as far as Middleton, City of Middleton with our K-9 because they're so well known. All the way to Richland Center, Sauk City, all over Iowa County.
All the way to Lafayette.
Because the dogs do their job. They're helping keep drugs off the street. The EMTs and the firefighters, if you drove by somebody that was hurt or a car fire, you say, oh shit, well, that is just outside Arena. I ain't doing nothing there. You guys figure it out. No, that's not what we do. Fire, EMS, police, that's not what we do. We care. We give a damn. But unfortunately, that's why we didn't quit. But unfortunately, after seeing the survey that went out, hearing that they're getting rid of our current committee, which consists of 3 residents, not board members, 3 residents, to go with 2 board members and a resident, to say that they haven't done their job. We need to get rid of this committee because they're not doing their job. They've done the exact same job, the exact same way since I've been here. How is it suddenly not any different than what it was? But that's what the board is telling us. It's in the minutes. They're not doing their job. We read the policy handbook. It says right in there to hold meetings when necessary. I don't hold a meeting every single month to say, hey, nothing to report. Have a good day. Sorry, I have to go down. But when there are items to discuss, we do hold a meeting. No one ever shows up. Board members have never, that's the second time I've done that. There was one meeting in my term as a chief since 2019 where two, I believe possibly three board members show up to one meeting, and that would have been in 20. In 2020, 3 board members show up to one meeting. Other than that, the board members have never appeared at a committee meeting. But somehow, they're able to say that this committee is not doing their job. Suddenly. So you tell me that we shouldn't take this personally as an attack. And to have all this pushed through just before the election of your new village board of trustees. I'm not going to rush anything. If I have decisions to make, they're going to be made in good heart, and it's going to take the time to make them. I don't care if we're getting a new board or not. I'm not going to rush anything through. That's not the way to do it. So yes, as of May 8th, we did submit our resignation letters. All 3 of us in the department. We are done. The village plans to move forward, and we are not included in those plans to move forward, unfortunately. We can see that.
How do they get away with putting out a survey?
We were never consulted. I didn't know about the survey, and neither did my committee,
Right.
until we received a notification on the internet that there was a survey put out.
Because when I went on to take it, it was kind of like, what the hell's this?
They have also.
And then the thing is, do you take it because everybody needs input? But you're giving input that's not correct for you guys? And then they can hold it up and say, see what everybody said?
That's exactly it.
So how do, I mean, other than elections, how do you work around that crap? You know, you are the, one of the main cogs in that survey. They don't even come to you for
I'm not included. I've received one email, I believe just one, if not more, less than 3 emails from anybody on the board since November.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You guys don't get them. So, sorry, but how the hell are we gonna be told the truth? Or informed properly? If they're sidestepping the folks that's actually involved.
Yeah. Like I said, we were taken by surprise as well. We weren't aware of it. No, we had no idea. I had no idea that they're going to cancel the mutual aid. We can no longer assist fire and EMS outside of the village limits. I had no idea that they were considering getting rid of the police committee or the public safety committee. I had no clue until I read it in the minutes at their board meeting. And still, they had plenty of time, a week or 2, to contact us via email, cell phone, text message, stopping in person. Not a single person contacted any of us regarding that. We were taken just as surprised.
So how do we get that out to the village? What you just said, how do we get that out so people really know what's going on? Not what is being presented, but what is really.
This is a hell of a start. This is huge. And it's unfortunate that it took these things happening to get this put together and to get this kind of turnout. But it's fantastic that everyone's here that's here right now. And this is the best place to start. You're getting the information from the source. I've had a lot of folks approach me and ask after the fact, what happened? What can we do? Go to your board meetings. Go to your board meetings. Go to your board committee meetings. Not just for public safety, for everything. for the parks, for water sewer. Let's get some new equipment for the parks for the kids to play on. You gotta go to the meetings. That's the only place to do it at. Start to hold them accountable for the decisions that they're making that are affecting you.
Do they hear your voice at those meetings? I just read, you get
They will,
5 minutes or 2 minutes, and then it's like, shut the hell up, next.
as a resident of this village, I'll say, they will hear you for 2 minutes. Whether they listen or not, I can't tell you. They will hear you for 2 minutes. If you raise your voice, they're gonna stop you. It's gotta stay calm. And there's certain topics I believe that they will try to avoid. Again, as a resident, I'm saying this, from meetings that I've attended, okay? But if you get the information here from the source, whether it's law enforcement, fire, EMS, whoever, and you start to spread that word to your neighbors, that's a hell of a start. I don't think there's many folks here who don't know where I live.
I don't. But I'm here.
Or where Officer Benish lives.
Should have started with that one first.
You know, that we can be getting a hold of very easily. Somebody just called me yesterday. I don't know how the hell they got my phone number, but she called me and said, "Hey, hope you don't mind, I got your number." Well, it's too late now, you got it. But they called me. I will always answer your questions. I don't care how hard they are. I will always answer your questions. I want to hear your side of it. I'll debate with you. I want to hear why.
That's awesome though, but then when you speak to the new elected officials who are now in for the next couple of years or whatever, you're hearing it, you're hearing the truth. You might as well beat your head against the wall if you're gonna be talking to them though.
I'm one of them now. And I'm not challenging you.
No,
I'm just going. I'm one of them now. And I have been a part of the ACT team here since our inception in January. And so I'm right on the page. I'm right on the page with all of us. Chief's correct. We really need everybody to be showing up at that meeting. First Tuesday of the month, because we've now been like, 10, 12 people showing up every meeting since around January. That's making a big difference. I mean, it's like, oh, there's a lot of people here. The fact that ACT records the meetings, video records, and then through our eye contact, for this group, that we get those recordings out. That is a private email, but if you give us your email address, you get it. That's where you're getting the whole board meeting. We understand not everybody can attend the meeting. It's not always easy to get there. But if you make the effort to at least listen to it, know what's going on if you can't, spreading the word, that's critical. Not all of us are good at writing letters to the editor, but if a few of us got together and wrote one together, then it's easier to get something. On the website for Village of Arena are underneath the village board, village president and board of trustees. You see all of our highlighted or linked names. You'll get to our email addresses. Email. Do not feel like you have to compose something like, oh, I don't even know what to write. Send it to me, Becca Raven. I am not happy about this. Any of my emails goes into archives. It becomes public record as it's a village communication. It is showing that residents are standing up going, hey, I'm not happy, or I am happy with this. Move forward with this. We also have Matthew Schrader on the board now. He is the other new trustee, and then Melissa Bandel was reelected trustee. I feel confident to say that Matthew and I have the we are village residents who want to come together as a community. And we certainly will have our own take on things, but we're open to discuss and to communicate and to represent everyone in this village, because we're all pretty smart about what's needed in this village. We just need to get that voice out. Not, how do I want to say this? Every single one of us has to take the responsibility for this village. We can't go, oh, well, Chief will handle it, or, Sue will take care of it, Becca Raven's got it. None of us can do it on our own. Look what happened. Look at our public safety is just gone to the toilet. And we're losing tremendously good people. And our village is in kind of a very precarious situation. And what is the way we get that back? It's harder to build that back than to maintain, right? But that doesn't mean that we don't have to go roll up your sleeves and we got our work to do. We have to stop expecting somebody else to do it. That's what this ACT committee realized when we said, we're gonna set up this meeting and just make it consistent and let's start working together. Doesn't mean that we're always gonna agree, but I hope that means we're always gonna be able to come to this circle and work together. Because the bottom line is, this is where we're growing up our families and retiring and living our lives. So I understand your feeling of, what do we do? We're all feeling that, but we're also going, well, let's do something. And reach out to each other, because from that, we gain strength. Now I've talked long.
I guess if you find yourself asking, how did this happen, it's already too late to do anything about it. Get involved, attend meetings, and stuff like this is a good start. I know I've had talks with you and Paul. One of the main things that's hampering our recruiting and our services is the lack of the community. This is a community, but we have people from everywhere now. It's a bedroom community. They work, they sleep here, they go back to work. We need that community where neighbors can count on neighbors, and if that neighbor can't help them, this neighbor can, and this neighbor will help that neighbor back. Everybody has to work together, and it's got to become a community again. I know it's never going to be perfect. There's going to be some people that just move away from Madison or wherever because they're tired of dealing with people, and there's less people out here. But to get volunteerism back, people have to feel like they belong to something. And they got to have that sense of belonging to this community. And then they start finding, thinking, well, I wonder what I can do to help this community. This community's done a lot for me. What can I give back to help this community? And volunteering fire and EMS isn't for everybody, but that's one of the ways that you can give back to the community. I practically grew up here, so I've got a little more, of stronger ties than some of the people. Dustin, we'll call him a transplant. Nick, Stephanie, they're not from here. A lot of our members now aren't, originally from around here. But they came in and they're part of the community. And being involved in fire and EMS is a big part of them being, in the community. So get involved.
I agree with that, Todd. Thank you.
Neighbor,
Yeah, thank you very much.
Neighbors. Talk to them. Get to know them.
You can get on committees with the village board as well.
Yeah.
The village board does have committees that does allow for residents and non-trustees to be on. Parks committees.
We won't talk about that.
But.
Yeah, what happened after I left?
Well.
Yeah.
See, it's your fault.
I know.
Well, we're
there
way
are
past time
ways.
here, so if everybody's got their questions answered, let's call it a night.
Has everyone signed in on the sign-in?